Welcome, it's Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerantz, and we are joined today by Tom Tiffany. He is a member of the Wisconsin State Senate. I've been looking forward to this interview for weeks because he is part of the ever-powerful Joint Finance Committee, one of 16 members in both houses, part of this joint committee. Very unique. What can you tell us about this unique situation where you have two houses starting a committee and not as part of a conference, I guess you could say?
Yeah, the little bit that I've studied in regards to it, we accept it here in Wisconsin. We think it's a great thing. We've known that we've had it for a long time, but we're the only state that does this, I guess. And there's been a few iterations of the Joint Finance Committee over the years, but in the late 70s, early 80s, sometime about that time period, they established it be 6 members of the majority party, 2 of the minority party from each house.
Right.
So it's 12 and 4, and I'm one of the fortunate 12.
And what's interesting about it is when you think about other states, when you think about Congress, you have one house passing a budget, another house passing a budget, then they got to come together, go into a conference, then they got to go back and pass the budgets again. In Wisconsin, I mean, it seems quite efficient, if I may say. You've done this in advance. You don't have to go back and forth and keep getting budgets passed.
Yeah. Having been through the process now for the first time, it sometimes I question the efficiency part of it, but it is because you do have both houses working together. I know I'm working with my fellow legislators on both the Assembly and the Senate side, and so I do think there is some efficiencies with it.
And it must be nice that you've served both in the Assembly and now the Senate, so you have a sense a bit of both houses.
Yeah, it's really good. I ran for State Senate before I got in the State Assembly. It is really good that I did serve in the State Assembly for a term because it does give you a perspective because each house is different.
So talk to us about what it's like to be part of this committee. Very powerful, and I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. I mean in the truest sense, you and the 15 others of you are really making significant policy decisions on behalf of close to 6 million Wisconsin residents. It's got to be quite heavy in the best sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of responsibility to it. The one thing I know in retrospect that as an overall observation is that I know the inner workings of state government much better. I mean, it's like a family budget. You know, until you know everything that you're paying for, where the money's coming in and where it's going out, you don't truly know how the whole operation runs. And it's very much this way. I understand state government much better now, having been through the budget process.
But that being said, look, I presume you're a very intelligent man. But this is a huge budget, you know, and it's not as if you're part of the Education Committee where you can be an expert in education. You, sir, have to be an expert really in all subjects if you're on joint finance because each area needs its own line item. So how do you do it?
Well, I think one part that we have in our state legislatures, we have the Legislative Fiscal Bureau, the Service Bureau. We have a fabulous group of people that manage Legislative Fiscal Bureau. They're nonpartisan, and they give us various options. We can call them anytime. The papers that they write for us are very thorough, which leads to a lot more reading.
I was going to say,
But as long as you read those papers, you have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. And then you just have to go back to the resources that are available to you, both in the agencies, people in the private sector, and people in the Fiscal Bureau, and ask them questions. What does this mean? So we have the resources at hand if you use them.
But it's interesting, you know, I have a 7th grade daughter, and she's still kind of struggling a bit with the zeros at the end of a mathematical number, you know, 25,000, 250,000, 2.5 million. I mean, I think about the zeros that you're seeing, and at a certain point, I mean, how many more zeros can you see and really understand what those zeros mean every time you add one or take one away?
Well, when they give you charts, you always want to look at the top to see if they've deleted some of the zeros. They'll say, this is in millions. So, yeah, it is big numbers that we deal with.
And so, but at a certain point, how are you kind of getting your arms around the size of those numbers? You know, I think about education, for example. So on the education side, the Joint Finance Committee has restored, you know, the $200 million that Governor Walker potentially wanted to cut, and, you know, it's what, 130 the first year and 70 the second year. But at a certain point, what does that all mean?
Yeah, we always try to bring it back to the real numbers,
right?
How it affects real people. I mean, the example you used there, $200 million
right.
for education. What that does is that second year of the biennium, there's another $100 per student.
Right.
So you really try to break that stuff down into measurements that the public can understand.
At the end of the day, do you feel as if all 16 of you, both Democrats and Republicans, have come together and really reached a consensus? Really kind of, because sure, I mean, there are two different parties there, but I got to think the 16 of you become pretty close. I would hope so, at least. How do you feel at the end of the day?
Yeah, certainly there's a difference in philosophy between the majority
good.
party and the minority
all
party.
Good.
But if you take some of the issues that we've dealt with, like Representative Knudsen stated it very well when we were dealing with the family care issue.
Right.
I mean, we listened to the public here in Wisconsin, kept family care, but many of the provisions that we had in our bill were very similar
right.
to what the Democrats were supporting. So there is common ground there on many of these issues.
And I've spoken with Democrats in the body, and they say, 90% of the time we pretty much agree. I mean, most bills make it out pretty easily. Of course, we in the media, I try not to be this way, but we're always looking for that 10% division to create a scenario whereby, there's more contention and there's more fighting than there really is. So did you ever think you'd be on the Joint Finance Committee of one of the great states in the Union?
Well, when I was elected in 2010, it's
right.
the first thing that I asked for.
Now, why?
Because it's the most powerful committee in the legislature.
Right, but be careful what you wish for.
Yes, yes.
And what was it about it? Because look, for some people, no interest at all. They want to do education policy. For some people, they want to do welfare reform, whatever it may be. What was it about joint finance that really hit you?
I just think it's always, when you're dealing with the dollars and how they're being
right.
spent, that's where you want to be. I mean, that's where the decision making truly is at. And so that was the first thing
sure.
that I asked for. And then I've been persistent since then, continuing to ask
for a while, but you got
every
it.
session. But I was very fortunate. Senator Fitzgerald named me to the committee now this session.
And you've been looking at another element of finance, and that is transportation. And as we know, transportation has been a source of some heated debate about roads and bridges. And you proposed a pretty innovative formula whereby locals will be able to put initiatives on their ballot to increase sales tax for their roads and bridges, as opposed to going statewide with the sales tax increase. Talk to us about AB, I think it's 210 is the number.
Yeah, Representative Knudsen and I introduced this bill. We refer to it as a local option sales tax. So locals a county
right.
could levy another 0.5%. They do it by referendum, no different than how we handle school referendums
sure.
in Wisconsin. So the voters decide, do you want to levy another 0.5% for repair and maintenance of your roads? And the money can only be used
right.
for repair and maintenance of roads. So we really leave the decision up to locals. And we've gotten a lot of feedback. Representative Knudsen and I wanted to get this out there to get some discussion going.
Right.
Because I do believe that we do need to get some dollars, some cash into our system for road repair and maintenance in Wisconsin. We can't continue just to bond.
Tell me more about that discussion, because there has been a lot about it. Should the locals have to bear the brunt, if I can use that cliche? Should it be a statewide increase in sales tax? Should there be an income tax increase? Lots of different ways to look at it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But I think it's similar to school finance. What we've done in Wisconsin is we've tried to return more and more control to the locals. You decide at the local level whether you want to tax yourself more for services that would be rendered, whether it's a school, whether it's for roads, and this is keeping with that philosophy.
And any sense where this initiative will go? I know we're not going to have an answer today, but you think it's going to get some momentum going?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I would not predict success, but I know it's certainly engendered discussion,
okay.
which is really good that people are talking about.
His name is Tom Tiffany. He is a member of the Wisconsin State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerantz. It's Charter Local Edition.